Dropping more pardons soon and might even pull some people off federal death row. Some Democrats want the president to give preemptive pardons to people who might be targets of the next administration. Let's talk more about this with North Central College political science professor Stephen Caliendo. Always good to see you.
Good to see you too, T.
Okay, so before we get into the before-the-fact pardons, talk about the significance of this being the largest single-day clemency action in modern history.
Yeah, and just so we're clear, and I think we have been, it's the largest single-day clemency. But of course, in terms of pardons, we've had much more sweeping pardons. We had Andrew Johnson pardoning Confederate folks, and when folks who fled during Vietnam, we had Jimmy Carter pardoning those folks. But this clemency thing's a little bit different. It's people who are serving sentences. They will be able to be released from whether they were in captivity. A lot of them were at home because they got moved out because of COVID. But as we noted, of course, the convictions still stand. So we don't have insight into how these 1,500 folks were chosen, but it's a large number, that's for sure.
Talk about the impact these clemency actions will have on Biden's legacy on criminal justice reform and second chances.
My guess is not very many. I mean, honestly, I pay attention to this very closely, and I can remember at the end of every president's term, a couple really notable. We're not going to forget that President Biden pardoned his own son, for instance. But presidents hand out a lot of pardons, especially on their way out the door, and it typically doesn't affect their legacy very much. So it's newsworthy today, and it's correct that you and I are having a conversation about it, but I don't know how much it will affect his legacy.
Something else a lot of people are having a conversation about is what the Democrats, some of them at least, would like to see. Can Biden actually pardon someone for crimes they haven't been charged with yet?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. My understanding has been that you got to sort of have done something, have been accused of something, and I think even convicted of something. Now, I gave a couple of examples of folks who were pardoned in a sweeping statement who had not been. That is, folks who fled to avoid Vietnam, for instance. And but look, President Nixon, for instance, is another example. So it can happen. But the number of people and the types of folks that I think Democrats are asking about here is really curious. President Trump has been clear that he thinks any member of Congress who sat on the January 6th committee should be in prison. There's a whole different set of the Constitution that protects members from doing their official duty from being brought up on criminal charges for that. But what else? What extending to the media? Anybody who said that the 2020 election was legitimate, are they all subject to investigation as well? I don't know how he would do it. He would certainly have to pardon a whole lot of folks, many of whom may not want to accept those pardons because they don't think they did anything wrong.
Yeah, we were looking at a few of them there. Dr. Anthony Fauci, Hillary Clinton, of course, and then Senator Adam Schiff, who said today, the president's got more important things to worry about than this. I want to end here with what are the upsides and downsides of using these presidential powers?
Well, the upsides are to the people and the families that they directly affect. I think there might be a marginal upside in terms of thinking about getting the community to talk about sentences, length of sentences, types of sentences for certain offenses. But again, those conversations don't typically last very long. And I think the downsides are what you suggested at the outset, T, is that it could affect a president's legacy. I'm just not of that mindset. I just think that it happens so frequently. Every president engages in it to some level, and I just don't think that it's going to have the kind of legs that it would need to have a real downside. So we can expect probably to see more from President Biden. Whether it gets to the level of those sweeping pardons that some of the Democrats would like to see, I'm not so sure.
And I'm sure we'll be speaking with you when all those developments happen. Professor Caliendo, thanks so much for being with us. And before I let you go, points and props on the holiday decor behind you, my man. Looks great.
I appreciate that. 'Tis the season, right, my man?
Yes, it is.